Good evening, everybody. It is Hugo Quintanilla here for another live at 5. Thank you for tuning in on Facebook and YouTube and wherever you are. I am Hugo Quintanilla, Realtor in Maryland with Long and Foster, North Potomac, Rockville. My phone number is 240-389-4846. My email is hugo@lnf.com, and my website is yourrealtorhugo.com. Guys, happy Monday. Hope you're having a great week. Hope you have had a good start on the tasks that you have had going on to this week. What a storm. Whew. It was crazy over the weekend. So hope everybody was safe. Not too many down trees, not too many down power lines. I had some internet issues earlier today just because of the storms and how bad everything was blowing. So it was kind of crazy. But yeah, kind of had me thinking about the differences between property ownership and property management, and kind of got me thinking a little bit about one of the biggest things that I do every day that's help people either lease or buy properties. So it kind of got me thinking that I still haven't talked a lot about how to go from a renter into a buyer. It's not easy, and it is possible. It takes a lot of patience and sacrifice so that you can actually get to the goal. A lot of people don't like to talk about that. A lot of people don't like to harp on that, but you will notice that it's a common thread between most people that have been successful in real estate, that they strive to achieve the next level through their efforts and their ambition. They go to the next level by going above and beyond every day and putting in the most that they can, and it pays off. It might not seem like the returns are going to come today or tomorrow, but you'd be surprised. They come when you least expect them, and you're so not just surprised and blessed, but just grateful for everything that has come because of your hard work, and looking back on the perseverance that you've had through all that time. Because many people can start something, but it's very tough for people to finish things. And real estate is not a short-term game. And the best benefit of real estate is long-term vision. You can milk a property for everything it's worth and maximize potential from it. There's no other business that can do that for you. And you can work a home to its nth degree, much more than you can have any sort of business. And it's amazing to me the amount of things that could be done, not just with the property, but with a little bit of a plan when it comes to real estate. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about leasing, because it turns out that my live from the other day didn't really go through that well. I saw there was a lot of interference. So we're going to just briefly go over the basics of leasing. And then I'm going to briefly talk to you about the BRRRR method and how we buy, rent, refinance, and do it again. So it's one of the most popular methods. I don't like to spend too much time on it because there's a lot better people that have had more positive case examples of it. But I can teach you more or less the ins and outs of what the concept is. How to execute it really comes down to what you're willing to live with and how much you're willing to not only invest, but also the cost of your primary residence, the first one that you embark on this adventure with. It's from there that it can really determine where your profits are going to be for the rest of your career, because it's very tough when you start off one of these projects investing and you lose money. You lose a lot of money, and sometimes some people never recover from that. So just to briefly today talk about how to lease and invest in Maryland, we're just going to touch on the brief overviews. If you want a little bit more detailed explanation, it's always on a case-by-case basis. But there are tons of different resolutions that can be had for buying a home. Leasing is positive if you're saving money. The difference between leasing and purchasing is initial investment. So more than anything else, you have to understand that to purchase a home, your mindset has to change. It's no longer about being a tenant. It's about being an a landlord, in essence, but a property owner and being responsible. When we did the interview with Eric Johnson from Prosperity Mortgage, he mentioned that we would like to give everybody the opportunity and the knowledge to be able to purchase a home, even though we know that not everyone is responsible to own a property. That's something to always keep in mind. Are you ready to own a property? Are you okay with having the maintenance that it needs, taking care of the structure of the building? It's a lot of cost. Recently, I've been seeing TikToks of people complaining about home ownership and how much of a money pit home ownership can be. Absolutely. And especially in these last markets where things have been so high and so overpriced, they the amount of money that people put on these properties when they bought them just to find out that these properties were less than stellar, it's absurd. So you really are shocked sometimes when you hear these horror stories of a brand new home with roof problems or foundation problems just because there was unfortunately miscommunication or maybe not enough knowledge or maybe not enough disclosure. There could be a million and one reasons why something like that can happen. And I never like to point fingers, but a little bit of due diligence goes a long way, and a little bit of knowledge in what you're doing as a guide, as a realtor, can really help your clients better make decisions that are going to impact their future in a positive light. Would you, and this is how I look at it. I treat every one of my clients like they're my family. Would I do this to my family? And that's really how it feels like to me. Um, Maybe not the most lucrative way of doing business, but I feel very, very good about it. And I can sleep well at night. And every one of my clients that I've met has been so positive in my life and such a great lesson to me. And I love it. I love it. I appreciate it. Some of my actually leasing clients are some of my best clients. They are the most responsible, but they have to make the decision. Do I like the instant gratification of the things that I'm doing right now and working on right now? Or do I want future security? It really comes down to savings. And key point, cars. I can't tell you how many people are more than anything being held back by their car payments. I know, I get it. Keeping up with the Joneses is a real thing. And sometimes you feel a little self conscious. Cars are extensions of ourselves. I can tell you as a car aficionado myself that cars speak volumes to who you are as a person. But at the same time, you have to think about the significance of your investments and where your money is going. At any given time, you have X amount of dollars to your name. How much of that is going towards a past debt has to be accounted for. And that is the number that is preventing you from getting to the next step in your life. So if $500 payment is what you have right now for car payment, and your budget does not allow mathematically for that to be under the 36% that we need for a home loan, that's it. You're out. You have to lease. And what's leasing? Even a lease that's $2,000 a month is $24,000 a year that disappears. That's $24,000 a year you can invest into other things, put back into a property yourself. Yes, it's expensive to purchase a home, more than anything because of the down payment and closing costs. People forget how much money it takes to purchase a property and how hard it is to run a property. It's not easy. People complain about landlords and how much it is a burden to do things right for landlords, but it's a business, and sometimes landlords don't understand that. I really wish there was better preparation for landlords, but that would involve a lot of uh, government involvement, and that's the last thing we want is the government telling people what to do with their houses. It's the worst when it's bad enough that we have eminent domain. So, we don't want to give the government any more reasons to tell us what to do with our land. I also am a firm believer that with leasing, you can actually give opportunities to people that really probably wouldn't have an opportunity otherwise. And I've heard of stories where leases are given to people off of trust and off of family and off of word of mouth or referral. And really, these people wouldn't be able to work and live and save in these counties if it wasn't for these opportunities there. You can't bite the hand that feeds you. And you got to remember that, because if you look around right now, you'll see that most properties have increased about 600%. Rents are not cheap. And just in the last 2 years, I've seen about a 600%, $600 increase for properties over 2 years. So we're talking a substantial amount. And yes, there are, restrictions in place, but the properties are already pricey as is. So 3% of anything is already going to be a nice chunk of change. And when you're talking about fixed incomes, and when you're talking about elevation in taxes, for example, like we had this year, you can have people being priced out of markets that they never expected to ever leave. We have people that have purchased homes never expecting to leave, and now are finding themselves in a position that they can't afford their properties. So leasing is great as a temporary solution, I believe, for you to get to an further goal. If you are in school, if you are temporarily living in an area, if you are unsure or unstable in your employment, if you're bouncing around from location to location, maybe leasing is easier. My suggestion would be always leasing at about 75% of your maximum income, so that you can actually have some leeway and save almost 25%. If you could take half of that, take 12% or 10%, and you can use 10% of that, to save up for a down payment, to use the other 2% for your closing costs. You can use that half that you're saving of 25 from your original paycheck and start building. You can use your tax refunds to put onto that pot and then start building, because it's never going to do itself. If you don't take the time to consciously set that money aside and not touch it, if you don't do it, no one's going to do it for you. Everyone wants a house, but no one wants to do the work. So I hope that your leases are letting you save. If you have a car payment, maybe leasing might be the best option for you, because it really is a burden on the financial process when you try to get a mortgage. Pay off that car. Don't get another one. Hold on to it and take care of it. Be kind to your cars, do maintenance on your cars, invest in your cars, because they will take care of you. But it's when you're in the habit of taking out cars every 3 to 5 years, there is no business there. You're making other people more profitable. You're making these dealerships profitable. Biggest suggestion: if you need a car, shop at the end of the month and negotiate. There are always quotas that need to be met. And I'm sure any one of my car friends would tell you there are all these types of tips and tricks that you can find to get the best deal on a new car. But the used car market has tons of opportunity, and you should really consider it, because no payments is the name of the game. We want as much money as possible going into your savings. We need 2 years of steady income, 2 years of steady employment, 2 years of good references, 2 years of good credit, preferably 650 or plus, and at least 3 times the monthly rent as qualifying income for a tenant. So if the place is 1,000, we're looking at 3,000 for the person to bring every month. We're talking about 36,000 a year. It's not unheard of, but it kind of shows you, hey, where are you going to find a place that's $1,000 a month, at least in this area? And that's why I wanted to kind of gear this more towards how to lease and invest in Maryland, because Maryland's a very tricky state. Depending on the county that you go to, you could have very rural areas and very densely populated areas. So it varies very wildly from city to city and county to county. So you got to make sure that you're taking your time to do your research on what's coming up in these areas, what's being developed, because there is still development in these areas, and what has already been done in these areas. There's tons of great attractions in Maryland in adjacent areas as well. We're very close to the nation's capital, and everything's pretty much an hour away, if that. Most things are within that radius. So if you're flexible on driving and like to drive, there are tons of scenic routes. It's a very quiet state. There's not a lot of drama per se. Um, Liberal, I would say, as well. It's definitely a blue state. It has some pockets of red, color there, if you're curious about that. But really, more than anything else, it doesn't impact real estate. The biggest thing that impacts real estate here is the government. At any time, we have employment by the government, by the droves. Hundreds of people work in the national government, and it's so easy for them to just commute in and out of the city. So the biggest thing that you'll find is that traffic is your worst enemy in this area. You gotta sometimes get up and prepare for traffic. But keeping that in mind, the keys to investing in Maryland are really price point. What is your entry price? And just like a stock, you got to think of it that way. Am I buying in at a good point? Yes, most areas will appreciate. Right now, most areas are appreciating at least 3 to 6%. So it varies depending on where you are and what county. But 3 to 6% is not bad. In hundreds of thousands of dollars, for example, let's take a home that's $300,000. 6%, that's almost $18,000 of gained value in your property over the course of 1 year of you just paying your mortgage. So imagine, we could save you money on your mortgage. Well, we can save you money on your rent because your mortgage is the goal of the mortgage is to make your mortgage less than your rent, or at least equal to your rent, and thus build equity for you while you're paying your own home. You own the property, it's yours, you could do with it what you want. Yes, there's some extra cost to it. Yes, there's more involvement. Yes, you have to be present and in the property, and it's all on you. But I can tell you, sense of ownership, sense of self, sense of community, sense of DIY, of just betterment and achievement is amazing, and there's nothing that can surpass that, I believe. So the price point is really the key. Someone brought up to me today foreclosures and tax loans, with tax liens on properties. These are great ways to find very cheap properties. Now, these properties usually involve a lot of cash up front. So you got to be prepared to pay usually the amount that they owe in taxes very quickly, typically before close. Also, you have to be knowledgeable that the majority of these properties go to auction. So when that happens, the properties will go to the highest bidder. And most people have access to MLSs. They have done their research, so they know what they're getting into. So be prepared to bid for these properties. That's not the case always. And sometimes, depending on your avenue of getting people in the pipeline, it might be something that varies from person to person. But it's something that, yeah, when you take the time to understand how foreclosures and those types of transactions work, you can start to connect with those people in those networks and start to build your network of information. That's really the key. Realtors, there are some realtors that specialize in this, and they have built out that network, and they themselves deal in this type of property flipping. But the key is to buy the property, rent the property, have the property leased or renovate the property, to get it prepared to lease. Lease the property, whichever needs to be done first, and then refinance the property. Basically, taking money out and then using that money to then purchase another property. It's a 4-step process where you purchase, you renovate, you rent, and then you refinance. They can take you maybe the course of 2 years to perform. Ideally, you gotta be mindful of taxes more than anything else, and that you're not being hit on that. And if you have any adjustable rates on your mortgages, that could be also something too that you gotta understand. Hey, at what point am I gonna have to pay for the loan product that I got? But if done correctly, this is what will happen. For example, we'll have a property that someone buys for 100,000. The property is probably valued for about 250. This is an ideal scenario. You put $50,000 into it. Now the property is worth 150 to you because that's how much you put into it. Properties are only worth what the market is willing to pay for them. So keep that in mind, because sometimes people get really upset when they invest a lot of money into a property and it's not worth that to the market. But you've invested 150 into it. You lease it. You lease this property for an amount that's at least the mortgage payment plus 10 to 15%, let's say, above that. So there's a little bit of leeway so that you can have some extra savings in case there's an emergency. You then let that operate for about a year or two, and then can take that information with the appreciation and getting an appraisal done to go and then refinance with a bank to take out a loan and then do the whole experiment all over again. Now with the money that you took out from the first property being the down payment for your next property, or at least the majority of your down payment. It doesn't necessarily have to be all of it. What we're trying to do is milk our properties. We're trying to draw out as much equity as we can, embrace that appreciation and push into it. Use that debt and roll it into a bigger net worth. And that's really the key. At some point we all cash out. And you might know what I mean one day, but we all cash out one day, and then our debts and all our work goes to someone else. If you do not have a plan for what happens when that day comes, the state will take care of that. But everything has value, and in real estate there is no value that is lost because they're not making more land. There is not any more earth left. They're barely constructing the earth that's around because we really need to preserve as much as we can. And man, there's a million and one things I could say about that. But that is a lesson for another day. Thank you so much for tuning into Live at 5. This has been your Realtor Hugo. I work with Long and Foster in North Potomac, Rockville. My phone number is 240-389-4846. My email is hugo@lnf.com, and my website is yourrealtorhugo.com. If you have any questions or comments about today's little chat, please feel free and leave them in the comments below. I will get back to them as soon as possible, or just send me a message or DM, and I would love to talk about your topic or question on next episode. Hope you have a great evening. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great day. Take care.